Ayubowan. So in this lesson, we are going to have a look at Cambridge Book 7, right? Now, as you know, these reading tests are being extracted by the Cambridge books, right? Book 7, and all due credits go to the original authors and whoever has got involved in preparing these books, right? So they are not reading passages that I have developed. They are reading passages extracted directly from the Cambridge Book 7, which is available for students as practice books, right? Now, this is solely for the academic students, right? So, in the reading book, the first 4 tests are for academic students, and then test A and B are for the general students, okay? So here we are going to have a look at the reading paper. Now before I begin, let me tell you, right, the reading paper is not here, right, but you can click and download the PDF of book 7. There will be a link in the video, so make sure you click on that link and download the paper, right. It's not a paper, rather the entire book, and in that you have the listening, reading, writing and speaking in that entire book, right. So you can download the book and then go and turn to, first you have the listening paper, then you have the reading, then the writing and the speaking, right. So you can have a look at the reading paper test 1, okay. So let me show you, this is how the book is, right. And you know the time duration now. Take 1 hour, answer all the 40 questions. So you can stop the video from here, download the paper, sit down and do your paper, right? Once you finish the paper, after 1 hour, let's have a look at the answers, okay? Right, so hopefully you have finished your paper now and you're following through after you have done the paper, right? So don't just look at the answers, there's no point in it. Please make sure you have done the paper. So can you please tick the answers? This means radio waves, echoes, right? Echoes, obstacles. Then passage 2. Please tick the answers. Passage 3, answers. Right? So I'm just going to give you a critique actually as to why that is the answer, okay? Now when you're doing this is a bit tedious because I'm not going to keep it open here, right? So you will have the paper in front of you, right? And then if you have got it correct, of course, you can skip to the next question. If you have got it wrong, pause, have a look at what I'm explaining so that you understand. Just going to tell that quickly in Sinhalese as well. හරිද? දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ for මේ 1 hour paper එක කළා all 40 questions answer කළා. දැන් ඔන්න answers අපි tick කරා. දැන් මෙතනින් එහාට මම කියන්න යන්නේ ටක් ගාලා මේක උත්තරේ වෙන්නේ ඇයි කියන එක. හැබැයි මම reading paper එක මෙතන අරින්නේ නැහැ. So තමන් ඉස්සරහා reading paper එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ, right? අනිත් පැත්ත පේන් එකේ වීඩියෝ එක තියාගන්න, දෙපැත්ත පේන්ස් එකයි, right? So මේ පැත්ත paper එක පොඩියට අරගන්න, මේ පැත්ත වීඩියෝ එක minimize කරගන්න. උත්තරේ තමන්ගේ හරි නම් ඊළඟ question එකට යන්න. වැරදි නම් pause කරලා අහන්න මොකද්ද උත්තරේ, ඇයි ඒක උත්තරේ වෙන්නේ කියලා. Right? Okay. So before we go there, 0 to 11, unlikely you will get a good score. 12 to 27, acceptable score. 28 to 40, you'll get an okay score, right? Right. So let's go back. Questions 1 to 5. Which paragraph contains the following information, right? So you can see answer is B, right? Now, examples of wildlife other than bats which do not rely on vision to navigate by, right? So, keywords. I put down here the keywords for you, right? Examples other than bats, not rely on vision, right? And in paragraph B, the writer states, right, how to find their way and find their prey in the absence of light. Bats are not only creatures to face this difficulty today, obviously, and then the writer lists some names of insects, fish, okay, in the following sentences. Navigate is to find their way. Absence of light is that they do not rely on vision. Other than bats means they are not only bats. Other than is except or different. So, other than is except or different from, right? So, now here you can see why we've got answer B, right? Here are the reasons, here are the keywords and some of the words that I thought you would not know, right? Some people might not know what navigate is, you know, absence of light, okay? So, given you some definitions for that as well, okay? Right, next one. How early mammals avoided dying out, okay? Now, here the keywords are how mammals avoided dying, right? So, in paragraph A, now if I'm not looking at all the stuff, right? I'm looking at the answer. Why did we choose A, right? So, in paragraph A, the writer says, it is probable that a nocturnal traits go way back in the ancestry of mammals, okay? So, early mammals are mammalian ancestors, right? So, they say in the time when our mammalian ancestors, that is the early mammals, probably only managed to survive at all because they found ways of scraping living at night. It can be inferred that finding ways of scraping a living that night is how early mammals avoided dying out. So, you know, early mammals are obviously the mammalian ancestors, avoided dying out. That means they managed to survive. Scraping a living means they found just enough food to eat and survive, right? So, this is the part where your answer is. So, you can see that the answer is A, right? Okay, so moving on into the third one, why bats hunt in the dark? Keywords, why hunt dark, right? So, please understand, now you should have everything in front of you, the paper especially, right? When I go here, go there and check. Don't just be looking at the screen like this and wait. Actively participate. Okay. So, this is the way that I can teach you because you should have both in front of you. Right. In paragraph A, the writer argues the hunt at night and they hunt at night and they cannot use light to help them. You might say that this is a problem of their own making, one that they could avoid. But the daytime economy is already heavily exploited by other creatures such as birds. This explains that bats hunt in the dark due to the heavily exploited economy. During the daytime, when for an example, birds catch insects, right? So, you can see in the dark is the night time. So, with that you can understand that we have chosen answer A. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, question 4, right? How a particular discovery has helped our understanding of bats? How discovery, understanding of bats. Now, those should be your keywords. If you haven't underlined your keywords, please underline your keywords, right? It is a must that you underline keywords. I've done it in the beginner, I've done it in the intermediate, right? So, advanced, you're using those skills. In paragraph E, right, the writer explains But the underlying mathematical theories of radar and sonar are very similar, and much of our scientific understanding of the details of what bats are doing has come from applying radar theory to them. The American zoologist Donald Griffin, who was largely responsible for the discovery of sonar in bats, coined the term echolocation to cover both sonar and radar. This means that radar theory helped our understanding of bats. So if you have a look at this bit, you can realize that the most appropriate answer is E. Right? 5. Early military uses of echolocation, right? So what are the keywords? Military uses, echolocation. So let's have a look at paragraph D. The writer says, after this technique had been invented, it was only a matter of time before weapon designers adapted it, changed it and used it for the detection of submarines. Both sides in the Second World War heavily relied on these devices under such code names as ASDIC, which British called it, and sonar, which uses radio echoes rather than sound echoes. This means that devices using radio echoes were used for military purposes as they served in the war. So the term echolocation was not known to the early pioneers and was invented later, as the final paragraph explains. So you can see this talks about how it was used for military purposes, right? So you should be able to understand how the link is between. That's why I have put up the keywords for you, right? Next one, complete the summary, okay? Notice that from the title facial vision, we can infer that information should be found in paragraph D, okay? Right, so kind of important, could be a bit difficult as well, okay? In fact, the sensation is more similar to the way in which pain from arm or leg might be felt. Okay, so you can go through this bit in between. So keywords is sensation, similar, pain, arm or leg. Okay. So in line 6, go to that specific line when I'm telling you, paragraph D. The writer states, experiments show that in fact facial vision is nothing to do with touch or the front of the face, although the sensation may be referred to the sensation in the front of the face, right? Like the referred pain in a phantom limb, okay? Right, so here similar to is like, leg or arm means limb, right? We need an adjective or noun to modify arm or leg. In addition, pain from arm or leg is corresponding to a pain in a phantom limb. In the text, adding that we see no arm or leg in the text. So it can be inferred that arm or leg is equal to the word limb. Equal means it means limb. And we need phantom to fill the gap. So the answer is phantom. Okay? Right. Next one. The ability actually comes from perceiving through ears. Ability actually perceiving through ears, right? So let's have a look at it. In the next sentence, right, after that in the next sentence, what we did before, from that the next sentence, right? the writer says the sensation of facial vision, it turns out, really goes in through the ears. Blind people, without even being aware of the fact, are actually using echoes of their own footsteps. This means that the sensation of facial vision, in fact, comes from using echoes through one's ears. The ability refers to the sensation of facial vision. Okay, so the gap there should be receiving echoes through ears. Okay, just like this here, from a what? Right? Question 8. Right? So, however, even before this was understood, the principle has been applied in the design of instruments which calculated the of seabed. So, keywords: principle, instruments, calculated, seabed. In the next sentence, the writer explains, before this was discovered, engineers had already built instruments to exploit the principle. For example, to measure the depth of the sea under a ship. So, understood means discovered, calculate means measure, seabed means sea under a ship, right? So, the answer here, calculated the what? Depth. Okay, here depth is the answer. Right. This was followed by a wartime application in devices for finding what? So, wartime application, devices, finding are your keywords, right? In the next sentence, the writer says, after this technique had been invented, it was only a matter of time before weapons design adapted it for the detection of submarines, right? So, detection means finding, wartime application means weapons designed and adapted it. This was followed means after. So, it was finding for what? Finding of submarines. Clear? If the S is not there, answer is wrong. Right, question number 10. Long before the invention of radar, blank had resulted in a sophisticated radar-like system in bats. So, what are our keywords? Long before, invention, resulted in bats. Okay. So, in paragraph E, if you go there, the first sentence the writer says, the sonar and radar pioneers didn't know it then, but all the world now knows that bats, or rather natural selection working on bats, had perfected the system tens of millions of years earlier, and their radar achieves feats of detection and navigation that would strike an engineer dumb with admiration. This means bats have a radar-like system due to natural selection. Right? So, you can see here, radar, what's the word there? Natural selection. Okay? The sonar and the radar pioneers refer to the inventors of radar, corresponding to the invention of radar, right? So, here tens of millions of years earlier means long before. Sophisticated, a bit clever and kind of complicated, right, in the way that it works. Natural selection perfected the system, so we can infer that the system was very sophisticated. The writer puts radar in quotation marks, indicating that the system is radar-like. So, you can see here, I've given you a bit of, context as to why we would select this as the answer and things that I thought would be useful for you, right? Okay, question 11. Radar is an inaccurate term when referring to bats because, right, it's not because, it's because, it's one word, are not used in their navigation system. So keywords are inaccurate, referring to bats' navigation system. In paragraph E, the writer argues it is technically incorrect to talk about bat radar since they do not use radio waves. This means that bats actually don't have radar because they do not use radio waves while radar does, right? So inaccurate means incorrect, referring to talk about, because means since, okay? Since radio waves, right? So you can see here, right? Do not use radio waves. So the answer here is definitely radio waves. Right, question number 12. Radar and sonar based on similar what? In paragraph E, the writer says, but the underlying mathematical theories of radar and sonar are very similar. This means that radar and sonar are based on mathematical theories which are almost the same. So it can be inferred that radar and sonar are based on similar mathematical theories. Right? Underlining means basic or fundamental. Right? So you can see, but the underlining mathematical theories. Right? That is why I say this means, and you kind of give an explanation. Right, moving on, question number 13. So keywords here are echolocation, first, someone. In paragraph E, the writer says, the American zoologist Donald Griffin, who was largely responsible for, right? So the word echolocation was first used by someone working as a who? He was a zoologist. American means his nationality. Zoologist means what his occupation was. He was working as a zoologist. First use means coined. Okay? Right. Passage 2. Questions number 14 to 20. Choose the correct heading. Right? So here, reading the first sentence in paragraph A. So let's have a look at it, right? Now, reading the first sentence, the history of human civilization is entwined with the history of the ways we have learned to manipulate water resources. Now, we could anticipate that the writer is going to talk about how water is supplied. Skimming through the next sentences, you will see words like water was bought, the Roman emperor, supplied occupants of Rome. Therefore, the most suitable reading heading for this paragraph should be 6. Okay? A description of ancient water supplies. Because we know this is about water resources, right? So how it was supplied. But then bought, the Roman, occupied by the Rome. So how ancient water supplies were, right? Ancient means belonging to a long period which is behind maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago. Description means correspondence to the way. Water supplies correspond means, right, manipulate of water resources. Supplied occupants means to control the use of something in a skillful way. So the answer would be 6, a description of ancient water supplies, right? Next one, paragraph B. In the first sentence, the writer says, during the Industrial Revolution and population explosion of the 19th and 20th centuries, the demand for water rose dramatically, right? So then the writer talks about unprecedented construction of tens of brought great benefits to hundreds of millions of people, right? So you could read through it. Here we should focus on the bold words to realize that the main content of the text is that the increasing demand, okay, of water has been met. Looking back at the heading list, the most suitable heading would be 3. How a global challenge was met, because it was meeting the increasing demand of water. It can be inferred that global challenge here corresponds to the demand for water rose dramatically. What I just underlined here before, right? So the most appropriate answer is 3. How a global challenge was met. Next one, paragraph C. The main points of this paragraph relate to dangers to health as a result of lack of clean water. The writer says, more than 1 billion people lack access to clean drinking water. Some 2.5 billion do not have adequate sanitation services. Preventable water-related diseases kill an estimated of 10,000 to 20,000 children every day. Therefore, the most suitable heading should be 7, the relevance of health, because it talks about how drinking water affects diseases. So it should be definitely health. Paragraph D. In the first sentence, the writer states, the consequences of our water policies extend beyond jeopardizing human health. From the bold words, we can infer that the writer is going to talk about negative results and effects. Okay? Jeopardizing here. Right? Not simply in terms of the effects, right, of these policies on human health. Looking back at the list, the possible heading should be either 5 or 1. Okay? Because 5 talks about the environmental effects, 1 talks about scientists' call for a revision of policy. Now, looking more closely at the text, we can see they talk about more and say that 20% of all fresh water fish species are now threatened or endangered, because dams and water withdrawals have destroyed the free-flowing river ecosystem where they thrive. So certainly it is what? Something to do with the environmental effects, right? So therefore, I would say it's number 5, environmental effects. It's not talking about a revision of a policy, right? All right, so moving on, paragraph 17, okay? In the first sentence, the writer says, at the outset of the new millennium, however, the way resource planners think about water is beginning to change. In the text, we see that in the following sentences, the writer indicates some water experts are now demanding that, right? So this shift in philosophy, from the bold words we can see, right, shift in philosophy is the bold words, can calculate that the text mainly discusses the demand by water experts to change something related to water policy, right? So therefore, call means demanding scientists to correspond to resource planners, water experts. Revision corresponds to shift in the philosophy, is to change. So I would say definitely 1, where scientists call for a revision of policy. Definitely that one. Because they say this shift in philosophy, this shift means this is a change in it. Clear? Right. Moving on to question number 18, paragraph F. Now, in the first sentence, the writer says, fortunately and unexpectedly, the demand for water is not rising as rapidly as some predicted. So, we can infer means we can kind of understand that the text is possibly going to talk about the downward trend in water demand, okay? In the text, we can see words like slowed, demand has actually fallen. Therefore, the most suitable thing should be 9. Okay, a surprising downward trend in the demand for water. Okay, now here you should be able to see how I pick up on the sentences and how I link the answer to the passage. That is very important for you to understand, right? Question number 19, paragraph G. Now in the first sentence, the writer poses a question in response to the final sentence in paragraph F. Demand for water has fallen in some parts of the world. What explains this remarkable turn of events? So, kind of giving an answer to that question, right? So, here indicating that he is going to talk about the causes for downward trend. Now, he says, okay, why? What explains this downward trend? In other words, he's saying, okay, what are the causes for this reduction in water use, right? So, to an explanation for reduced water use. Right, so moving on into the next question, paragraph H, right? Now, in the first sentence, right, the writer says, on the other hand, aqueducts, right, is kind of a way that you kind of block the natural flow of water, right? Like you kind of build a bridge or something over a dam, okay? So, on the other hand, aqueducts and other kinds of infrastructure will have to be built particularly in developing countries where basic human needs have not been met. But such projects must be built on higher specifications with more accountability to local people and their environment than in the past, right? So in these ways, the new project should have higher standards, right, in order to protect local people and their environment. Therefore, most suitable heading would be number 10. The need to raise standards. You can't just give something. You have to make sure you provide them higher standards, right, in order to protect the local people and the environment. Because it says built on higher specification corresponds to raise standards, right? So I would think it is 10. Questions number 21 to 26, it's yes, no or not given. Yes means if the same answer, similar meaning is there. No means the contradictory view is there. Not given means the key meaning or the idea is not there in the passage. So I give my students kind of a quick thing. I tell them, okay, think about this. There are 10 students in the class. 5 are girls. Now what did I tell you? That there are 10 students in the class and out of that I said 5 are girls. Question number 1. I tell them, okay, there are 5 boys in the class. Is it true, false or not given? So you could answer that question in your mind, true, false, not given. The answer is not given. I never spoke about boys in my passage, okay? All I said that there were 10 students, 5 are girls. You must be wondering, oh miss, but the remaining are boys. I don't know. There could be birds, there could be ducks, there could be, I don't know, any kind of, humans or, monsters, right? I don't know. But remember, if your keywords are not there or the meaning is not there, it is not given. That's the easiest example I could give you. Right. So, water use per person is higher in the industrial world than it was in ancient Rome, right? Water use per person, higher industrial world, ancient Rome. So in paragraph A, the last sentence says, at the height of the Roman Empire, supplied the occupants of Rome with as much water as per person is provided in many parts of the industrial world today. Thus, people in ancient Rome used as much water as the people of the industrial world now. That is what it means. So, water use per person was higher. Is higher in the industrial world? No, it's not high, it's the same. So, you can underline and show me. So, therefore, it's not higher, it's the same. So, the answer is no. Next one. Feeding increasing populations is possible due to primarily to improved irrigation systems. Keywords: feeding, population, irrigation systems. In paragraph B, the writer explains food production has kept pace with soaring populations mainly because of the expansion of artificial irrigation systems that make possible the growth of 40% of the world's food. In other words, what does this mean? That the food production still manages to supply the increasing population because irrigation systems help in the production of more food. So, feeding increasing population is possible because of improved irrigation systems? Yes. Soaring means increasing. Due to primary means mainly because of. Improved irrigation system means expansion of artificial irrigation systems. Right. Question number 23. Modern water systems imitate those of the ancient Greeks and Romans. So, what are the keywords? Modern, imitate, ancient Greeks and Romans. From these keywords, it can be inferred that the description of water systems could only be found in paragraph C. However, we are only told that half of the world's population still suffers with water services inferior to those available to ancient Greeks and Romans. Whether these modern systems copy those of ancient, we don't know. They don't tell us that. They say those available to ancient Greeks. But we don't know if it was a copy or if it was not. So therefore, I would say the answer is not given. Right. So moving on to the next question, 24. Industrial growth is increasing the overall demand of water. Industrial, increasing demand for water are the keywords. In paragraph F, the writer argues, although population, industrial output and economic productivity have continued to soar, in developed nations, the rate at which people withdraw water from aquifers, rivers and lakes has slowed, right? So what does this mean? It means that industrial growth is not increasing the demand for water. In fact, the demand has slowed. And in fewer parts of the world, demand has fallen. So it says industrial growth is increasing the overall demand for water. No, it is actually decreasing. So the answer is no. Alright, question number 24. Modern technologies have led to a reduction in domestic water consumption. Okay? Modern technologies, reduction, domestic water consumption. Those are your keywords. Let's have a look. In paragraph G, the writer says, but since 1980, the amount of water consumed per person has actually decreased, thanks to a range of new technologies that help to conserve water in homes and industry. So, modern technologies have led to a reduction in domestic water, right? Water consumption, yes, it has actually decreased thanks to a range of technologies. Yes, it has decreased, so answer is yes. Alright, so moving on to question number 26, right? It can be very tiring for you to run through all the answers, but if you feel, you're overwhelmed with information, pause the video. Now quickly get up, stretch yourself a bit, have a snack, and come back and go through the answers, okay? Right, in the future, governments should maintain ownership of water infrastructures, right? Now, future government ownership, water infrastructures should be your keywords. Information relating to government and water infrastructure can only be found in paras H and E, right? So, I go to para E first. The writer just states some water experts are now demanding that existing infrastructure can be used in smarter ways rather than building new facilities. There's nothing about ownership. I didn't say anything about ownership. In paragraph H, dams, aqueducts, and other kinds of infrastructure will still have to be built. Again, nothing about ownership, right? So therefore, there is no information indicating whether the government or private organizations should have this ownership and maintain it. So I would say answer is not given. Right. Questions number 27 to 30. Choose the correct letter. Question number 27. The book Educating Psyche is mainly concerned with, so educating psyche mainly, okay? In the first paragraph, the writer says, Educating Psyche by Bernie Neville is a book which looks at radical new approaches to learning, describing the effects of emotion, imagination, and unconscious on learning. So, it can be inferred that the main content of the book is about new approaches to learning. The possible answers that may contain the words relating to approaches is B. Right? A particular technique for learning based on emotions, and you can see D there, right? Ways of learning which are not traditional, however, answer B focuses only on one technique based on emotions. While according to the above text, the book deals not only with emotions but also the effect of imagination and the unconscious on learning, right? So I think answer is D, because ways of learning which are not traditional, right? You can see here a particular technique based on learning emotions. So it talks about things which are not only traditional learning. So I would say answer D. Okay. Next one. Lozanov's theory, remember. In paragraph 2, the writer explains Lozanov's instructional technique is based on the evidence that the connections made in the brain through unconscious processing are more durable than those made through conscious processing. Then he continues to explain more about the theory. We know from our experience that we often remember what we have perceived peripherally, long after we have forgotten what we set out to learn. This means that when we try to remember things, our brains find it difficult to remember connections between the things which we want to learn, but find it easier to recall the connections between the unimportant things that we do not try to learn. Therefore, I think answer is A. Unimportant details are easiest to recall. Okay, I think that is what it's actually talking about. Unimportant details can be easily understood. Unimportant means peripheral. Remember, recall unimportant details stay longer in our memory than obviously important ones? I think so too, right? Even when we perceive them peripherally, so that they are the easiest to recall, yes. So I think answer should be E, right? 29, right? In this passage, the author uses the examples of a book and a lecture to illustrate that. So I think examples, book, lecture are the key words, right? In paragraph 2, the writer says, if we think a book we studied months or years ago, we find it easier to recall peripheral details than the content on which we were concentrating. If we think of a lecture we listened to with greater concentration, we will recall the lecturer's appearance and mannerism much more easily than the ideas we went to learn. I think that's quite true. Don't you think so, right? Both examples indicate that we recall unimportant things more easily. Therefore, these examples support the idea that the theory is valid. So, answer is B. His theory about methods of learning is valid. Question number 30. Lozanov claims that teachers should train students too, right? So, here Lozanov, teacher, trains students. In paragraph 3, the writer states, Lozanov therefore made indirect instruction, okay, central to his teaching system. In Suggestopedia, that he called his method consciousness is shifted away from the curriculum to focus on something peripheral. The curriculum then becomes peripheral and is dealt with by the reserve capacity of the brain. So what does this whole thing mean, right? This means that he suggests making the curriculum peripheral by focusing on something else in order to remember the curriculum better. Therefore, the most suitable answer is C. Think about something other than the curriculum content so that they remember the curriculum better, so that that becomes the peripheral thing. Right, okay, so let's move on to question number 31 to 36, right? So here we are looking at true, false and not given, right? Now, in the examples of suggestopedic teaching in the 4th paragraph, the only variable that changes is the music, right? So let's have a look at it. Suggestopedic teaching, variable changes music. In the 4th paragraph, the writer says, in the first part, the music is the classical and the teacher reads the text slowly and solemnly, with attention to the dynamic of the music. In the second part, they listen to baroque music while the teacher reads the text in a normal speaking voice, right? So in addition, the paragraph also tells us that in the first part, students follow the text in their books. But in the second part, they have their books closed. So I would say music is only one difference. There are 2 other variables. So the answer would be false. Okay, only one variable? No, there are 2 variables. Okay. Right, 32. Prior to the Suggestopedia class, students are made aware that the language experience will be demanding. Now here, prior to Suggestopedia, language experience demanding are your keywords. So in paragraph 5, the writer says, beforehand, the students have been carefully prepared for the language learning experience. Through meeting with the staff and satisfied students, they develop the expectation that learning will be easy and pleasant. Right. Okay. So this means that students think that the language experience will not require much effort. Prior to means beforehand, right? So here they think it will be demanding. No, they don't think it will be demanding. Okay? So they say carefully they feel, okay, they prepare them with the experience, but they develop an expectation that it will be easy and pleasant. So not quite challenging. So the answer is false. 33. In the follow-up class, the teaching activities are similar to those used in conventional classes. Follow-up classes, activities, similar, conventional class. In paragraph 6, the writer states, there is a follow-up class at which the students are stimulated to recall the material presented. The students, it goes on a bit, focus on using the language to communicate. Example, through games or improvised dramas, right? Dramatizations. Such methods are not unusual in language teaching. So, in the follow-up class, teaching activities are similar to those used in conventional classes. Yes, I think that's quite true, right? Not unusual. Such methods are not unusual in language teaching. So, it's nothing new there, right? So, it is true. As an indirect benefit, students notice improvements in their memory, right? Benefit students, improvement memory. Information relating to the benefit of the methods of students can only be found in para 6. However, the writer just mentions that the students can learn words and students can regularly learn 1,000 new words of a foreign language during a suggestopedic session. There is nothing mentioned that any students can benefit to the memory, or there's a benefit directly concerning the memory of a student. So therefore, I would say the answer is not given. Okay? Question number 35. Teachers say they prefer Suggestopedia to traditional approaches to language teaching. Teachers prefer Suggestopedia traditional. Information relating to Suggestopedia and traditional approaches can be only found in para 6 and in the final paragraph. However, in para 6, we learn only the task of the teacher in the Suggestopedia. In the last paragraph, we learn that few teachers are able to emulate the spectacular results of Lazonov. There is no reference which approach teachers prefer. So, I would say answer is not given. They talk about the two approaches, but which one do they prefer? They don't talk about it, so not given. 36. Students in a Suggestopedia class retain more new vocabulary than those in ordinary classes. So, Suggestopedia retain more new vocabulary, ordinary are your keywords. In paragraph 6, the last sentence, the writer says, another difference from conventional teaching is the evidence that students can regularly learn 1,000 new words of a foreign language during a Suggestopedic session, as well as grammar and idioms. Therefore, the suggestion that this total 1,000 words is more than they would learn in an ordinary class. So, I would say yes, that is true. Right, 37 to 40, complete the summary using the list of words below. Right, so you have the words below there. However, Lozanov admits that a certain amount of ... means, there's bit in between, is necessary in order to convince students if this is just. So, Lozanov admits amount necessary. I'm just going to cut the E here. We don't need the E, right? In paragraph 7, the writer suggests Lozanov acknowledges that the rituals surrounding suggestion in his own system is also a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable or afraid to tap the reserve capacity of their brain. Like any placebo, it must be dispensed with authority to be effective. This means that ritual is necessary for making students believe that the method is effective. On the other hand, ritual is a placebo, right? So, 37 should be ritual, 38 should be placebo. Right. So, 39 and 40, although Lozanov's method has become quite the result of most of the other teachers using this method have been, what is it, right? Let's have a look at the last paragraph. The writer states, while Suggestopedia has gained some notoriety through success, the teaching of modern languages, few teachers are able to emulate the spectacular results of Lozanov and his associates. This means although Lozanov's method is successful, results obtained by most of the teachers using his methods have not been very good or spectacular. Here we need two adjectives, one to describe Lozanov's method and the other for the results. So answers would be 39 K, well known, 40 G. Right. So with that, we have come to the end of the discussion, right, which we discussed Book 7, Test 1, Reading Answers for Academic Students.